What is going on, guys? It's Tazz here, and welcome back to the channel. Now today I've got for you guys is my season overview and finale review for Season 1 of Stargirl. With a total of 13 episodes, time flew by to the end of Stargirl's first season, airing both on the DC Universe as well as the CW. I want to start things off by giving you guys my quick spoiler-free thoughts on the season as a whole before getting into full spoilers on the season and then going in depth with the finale. Stargirl is literally the best DC TV show on right now, so if you have not watched it yet, seriously go watch it. 10 out of 10 would recommend, and that just about does it for my spoiler-free review of the season. It's just amazing, so go watch it if you have not already. So with my very quick spoiler-free thoughts out of the way, let's get into the season overview. Stargirl's first season is pretty much your typical superhero origin story and so much more. We get to see the backstory of the first incarnation of the Justice Society of America who died at the hands of the Injustice Society, and then we see Courtney and her family unaware of Pat's past with the JSA move to Blue Valley, where surprise surprise the ISA have also decided to set up shop. Early on in the season, we get to see Courtney discover the Cosmic Staff, learn about Pat's superhero days as Stripesy with the JSA, as well as learn about what happened to the original team at the hands of the Injustice Society. While we get to see Courtney learning how to harness the power of the Cosmic Staff and becoming Stargirl, as well as putting together a new Justice Society, we also slowly get introduced to the different members of the Injustice Society living in Blue Valley. At around the mid-season point, things really start to kick into gear as we have a fully formed new Justice Society of America led by Courtney as Stargirl alongside Pat in his stripe armor with the new versions of Wildcat Hourman as well as Dr. Midnight, and we even have the addition of a classic Seven Soldiers of Victory hero in there in the form of Shining Knight more towards the end of the season. In addition to a completed JSA 2.0, we also have the Injustice Society made up of villains like Icicle, Brainwave, Dragon King, Sportsmaster, Tigress, and the Gambler progress further and further with their evil master plan that we eventually come to know as Project New America. With their plan in motion, the ISA hope to reprogram half of the country's population in order to all think a certain way and eliminate, well, injustice. It just seems like they're going about it the wrong way, as 25% of that population would end up dying. So, of course, in traditional superhero fashion, it is up to the JSA to stop the ISA once and for all. As a whole, I thought this season was just absolutely top-notch for a first season of a show and easily the best DC TV show on at the moment. I love all of the characters, the entire cast is wonderful, this show has some amazing action and effects, the storylines were interesting and engaging and fun and sometimes even mysterious. I honestly can't even think of a bad episode this season, and that is just so telling of how much I truly enjoyed it. I could easily go on forever talking about how perfect the show is, how great it looks, and how it captures the perfect tone for a superhero show. One that is fun and mesmerizing, yet is not afraid to get really dark and serious and very emotional and character-driven when it needs to be. Stargirl really balances not only all of its characters and storylines so well throughout the season, but also makes its 13-episode run a super enjoyable experience. So with all of that said, huge thank you to cast and crew and Jeff Johns and everybody else involved for making such an amazing show that was so fun to come back to week after week, and now let's move into talking about this finale. Episode 13 of Stargirl Season 1, the finale titled Stars and Stripe Part 2, does everything you would hope and more that the second part of a two-part season finale would do. This thing does not skip a beat and picks up pretty much right where we left off last week, but from a slightly different perspective. We kick things off at Blue Valley High School out on the football field right before the Injustice Society activates the machine, where we get to see Isaac Bowen, aka the Second Fiddler, take his mother's advice and get some revenge on that kid that was bullying him by using his tuba as a blunt force melee weapon and just smacking this dude in the head with it. Honestly, that was kind of funny, but as Isaac was about to be dragged away to the office, we actually see the field open up from the center as the ISA's satellite emerges and powers on, lining us right back up with where we left off with the penultimate episode. Before getting back to the mind-controlled Stripe versus Stargirl confrontation, we get to see Jordan as he is walking through Blue Valley in a pretty ominous way, as everyone around him has been stuck in place during the whole reprogramming phase. And Jordan, just between you and me, pretty sure that little girl on the street did not believe you that everyone was being reprogrammed for a good reason, just kinda thought you should know that. Anyway, back to Pat and Courtney down in the tunnels as they have a bit of a mini fight as Pat is being controlled by Brainwave. So while Courtney tries to get through to Pat, Rick and Yolanda try to do the same with Justin, and Beth is forced to come up with a way to break Brainwave's control over the adults. This leads to Beth, with the help of Chuck inside the Dr. Midnight goggles, to finding out that there are signal dampeners down in the tunnels that, if activated, can snap both Pat and Justin out of the mind control. The only problem, the gambler is still doing his counter hacks to keep Beth and Chuck out of the systems. That is until Beth decides to divert the gambler's attention just long enough to activate the signal dampeners by draining his bank accounts and donating all of his money to various charities. A pretty funny way to distract the good old gambler. But now with the signal cut off to the tunnel, Pat and Justin are able to break free from Brainwave's control and continue on to the rendezvous point, which was Dragon King's lair. Before we get to that, we did also have a very nice heart-to-heart moment between Pat and Courtney where she was helping him break out of the mind control, bringing up how Pat has always been there for her ever since they got to Blue Valley. But we'll get to even more emotional Pat and Courtney scenes a little bit later on. So with everyone heading closer to the machine, we have Jordan and the rest of the ISA prepare for battle, along with a little conversation between Rick and Yolanda, which does come back into play fairly soon. We have them argue over the morality of killing their enemies, where Rick wants to kill Grundy, but Yolanda thinks that they shouldn't kill anyone. Ironic. After this though, the JSA meets up in Dragon King's lair, ready to find and destroy the machine. That is until Jordan, along with Dr. Ito, Sportsmaster, and Tigress do show up as well. So as we have all been patiently awaiting ever since we saw it in the trailers, we have our nice heroic group shot with the JSA, juxtaposed by the villainous group shot of the ISA, right before they duke it out in easily one of the best fight scenes of the season. We have Sir Justin taking on Dr. Ito to try and slay the dragon, Courtney fights Icicle, Rick goes up against Sportsmaster, and Yolanda faces off against Tigress. And as for Pat in the stripe armor, he'll be needed in a bit as the gambler unleashed the beast and let Grundy out of his cage. And like I said, this fight scene was just amazing. Everyone taking on an equal foe was great to see, the fight choreography was top notch, the camera movements were really well done, as for a part of it, everything looked like one long take, so just a very well done fight scene. Partway through, we get to the first of many big shocking moments of the episode. During Dragon King and Justin's fight, they end up breaking open the door to Cindy's cell, which comes back to bite, or I guess stab, Dr. Ito in the back. So I was expecting Shiv to get out during this big battle, but I was not expecting her to just straight up murder her father like that. I guess that'll teach you not to lock Shiv up anymore. Back to everyone else's fights, however, they all do a pretty good job of holding their own up until Pat takes over on the Icicle fight and Courtney is able to assist in the Sportsmaster and Tigress takedowns. Do keep in mind that both of them are left alive and able to come back next season, but after this, the JSA is able to incapacitate Icicle and almost have him right before Solomon Grundy rocks up to the party. So with our favorite big gray CGI monster here, everyone ends up kind of splitting off. We have Yolanda going after the machine, Courtney and Shiv facing off once again, as well as the big CGI fight between Grundy and Stripe that we all knew was coming. And it was awesome. Well, up until Grundy ripped off pretty much all of Stripe's limbs and almost killed Pat, but luckily Rick did end up coming in to save the day just in time so he could finally get the payback for his parents that he was looking for. And can I just say Rick in the Hourman suit without the mask or the hood up looked really cool. Please, more of that next season. Switching gears to the Stargirl Shiv rematch, it doesn't last too long, but just long enough to give us another great fight between these two before Courtney just blasts Cindy with the staff and is all like, I don't have time for this. So pretty funny, and I do hope there will be many more Stargirl v Shiv fights to come in Season 2. I just really love their rivalry. Swapping back over to Yolanda, she takes on a room full of Dragon King's drones up until she gets to the final one, who takes their mask off and is revealed to be none other than Henry King Jr. Right when this happened, I was excited to see Henry Jr. back alive, but the deeper we got into the scene between the two of them, the more suspicious I became, just like Yolanda. And right when Henry said they had to go find not our friends, but Yolanda's friends, the charade was up. She knew right then and there that wasn't Henry Jr., but Brainwave using a very cool ability to disguise himself as his deceased son. Cue shocker moment number 2 for the episode, as this is where Yolanda sees through the lies of the Jedi and just straight up Wildcat claws Brainwave in the throat, killing him for what he did to Henry Jr. Super unexpected and super brutal, and in that moment you could tell that Yolanda may have done the wrong thing for the right reasons, but it's going to be hard for her to accept it and to forgive herself, especially after not more than a few minutes earlier arguing with Rick about the morality of killing. So we then have Courtney come into the room to see Yolanda standing there over Brainwave's body, just kind of realizing what she just did, but the both of them know that they do need to complete the mission, so the two of them then get to the satellite where Courtney flies up with the staff in another very cool visual shot and blasts the ISA's machine to destroy it. I've gotta say, when Courtney was flying around destroying the satellite, that was the moment of this episode where I was like, wow, they really did a great job saving the CGI budget for this finale, because everything up to this point has looked amazing and this looks equally as impressive, so a great job on the part of the VFX team. But with the ISA's machine finally destroyed and Courtney and Yolanda escaping the wreckage, Project New America was kicked offline and everyone who was under the machine's control was unwhammied. Going back over to the office with Beth and Barbara, we have Jordan swing by to give us our third shocking moment of the episode, where he ends up freezing Beth's goggles and seemingly destroying Chuck, the Dr. Midnight AI within them. So for those of you who may have thought that the goggles were a bit overpowered, I guess you got what you wanted here, but this was honestly a pretty sad moment for me. And I mean, Beth loved those things, not so much for the abilities that they had, but because she became such great friends with Chuck, who is now out of commission alongside the goggles. So after Jordan froze them and knocked Beth out, he just continued going full on evil frozen crazy pants and kidnapped Barbara as well. Back down in the tunnels, we get to see more of the sick Rick versus Grundy fight, as well as Pat leaving the destroyed Stripe armor behind to go and save Barbara. Before getting back to the office, we do have a pretty interesting little scene with the gambler, where we do see him delete all of his files and leave his command center, letting us know that he is still out there and could return next season as well. After that little teaser with the gambler, we have Courtney and Yolanda finding Beth back in the office with the destroyed goggles, as well as Beth letting Courtney know that Icicle has her mother. So speaking of Jordan, he has Barbara up on top of the clock tower, where we have him just break out and go full on crazy supervillain monologue. Jordan brings up all of the classic evil tropes about how he was trying to help the world and that he's actually the good guy and everything, but Barbara of course wasn't having any of it and was all like, dude, you're just an evil snowman. She didn't actually say that, but that would have been pretty funny. I did, however, want to give big props to Neil Jackson, who plays Icicle, because his acting was just on point this entire episode, and honestly throughout the entire season. You really kind of feel bad for him that his plan didn't work, and when he kind of just goes off the rails and just rants up there on the clock tower, it's acted so well. So big props to Neil Jackson and his portrayal of Jordan McKent all throughout this season. However, getting back to the scene, as Barbara obviously would never agree with anything that Jordan was doing, he just goes completely mental and ends up saying, you know what, I'ma kill Courtney, I'ma kill Pat, that'll show ya. But just in the nick of time, Pat shows up facing Jordan and bringing along a bit of cosmic-powered backup with Courtney. Before the big showdown though, we go back down to the tunnels where we get the end of the Hourman versus Grundy fight, and Rick was really able to hold his own there. They are both all beaten and bloody. Rick has Grundy right where he wanted him all this time. He could finally get the vengeance he wanted for his parents, but he just couldn't bring himself to do it. Rick can't kill a defenseless Grundy, even if he was the monster that killed his parents all those years ago, so Rick has to spare Grundy. I thought this was really a super powerful scene and such great development for Rick, and it was acted so well by Cameron Gelman. He learned one of the greatest lessons of all by, as Justin put it, sparing the beast. But this does also mean that our boy Solomon Grundy is of course free to come back in season 2 as well. All super exciting stuff, but I can't be the only one who just felt bad for Grundy there when Rick was about to kill him and he put his hands up like, bro, I'm done with this fight, please don't kill me. That was pretty sad, man. So I'm glad Rick spared Grundy, and again, it was just some great character development there. Man, as I'm recording this, we're 14 minutes deep. We gotta keep this thing moving. So back to the clock tower, and this is where we get our big Stargirl versus Icicle fight up here. Again, another great fight scene, lots of cool effects with not only the cosmic staff, but also Jordan's Icicle abilities. Eventually, we have both Icicle and Courtney get blasted off of the clock tower, and luckily Yolanda was there to jump off the top and save her, giving us a very cool callback to the very first episode with Yolanda in her suit, testing out her powers and not wanting to test out the jumping off of buildings part. It is safe to say that now the feature has been successfully tested. As for Jordan though, he kinda got what he deserved as he fell into the street and was pretty upset about it. He powered up ready for more fighting, but then out of nowhere we have our fourth big shocker moment of the episode as Mike drives up in Justin's truck and absolutely just shatters Jordan into a bunch of tiny ice shards. So a pretty funny way to finish off Icicle with Mike just running into him with a truck, and I guess what goes around comes around. Also, is Icicle dead, or can he somehow put himself back together? I'm pretty sure getting absolutely wrecked by a truck means you're dead, but I guess you never know with these shows, so for now, big F's in the chat for Icicle that was turned into a slushie by Mike Dugan. Also, are we just gonna kinda let it slide that Mike literally killed a dude? Like, does anybody care? Or no? Anyway, right after Mike shatters Icicle, he looks over at everyone and is all like, does this mean I get to be in the JSA now? So in my book, Mike, yes, you are now a member of the team for sure and will always go down in history as the dude that shattered the Icicle. And with that, everyone was back together, the day had been saved, the villain or villains had been defeated. Great job, JSA, you saved Blue Valley and didn't even need to open up any crazy wormholes or destroy the city. Shortly after this, we have Courtney, Rick, Beth, and Yolanda back at the school out by the bleachers thinking about everything that they just went through and how to move on from all the darkness they've seen. Beth was still pretty broken up about the goggles and Chuck, but everyone promised that they would help fix them, so I guess that means we will have some new and improved Dr. Midnight goggles and AI to go along with them next season. After the little JSA chat, we end up having to say our goodbyes to Sir Justin as he is packing up to leave Blue Valley in order to go find his horse and the rest of the 7 soldiers of victory. But it seems like they did leave the door open for him to return at some point in the future because, like Pat told Justin, there will always be other dragons to slay. Hopefully this means that Justin will be back at some point in Season 2, maybe with some of the other members of the 7 soldiers as well. After Justin left, I did think it was pretty funny when Barbara asked Pat how everything that went down in Blue Valley was going to be explained, and then we cut to a news report saying that it was all just an earthquake. But the news report here wasn't really the important parts. What was important, however, was where this news report was being played. Back down in the ISA's headquarters, and who is down there in the HQ? None other than the Shade, who sits at the table, activates his powers, and is all like, "Ha, Jordan, told you your plan wouldn't work." So there we have it, the Shade has come back into the fold, and it seems like he will be a major player on the side of the ISA for Season 2, most likely reassembling a team from who is left in Blue Valley. So I would have to guess that next season's Injustice Society would be led by the Shade, with Sportsmaster, Tigress, and the Gambler joining up as the only remaining members. And it is fitting that all of these surviving members are all in one area of the ISA painting, so just a very cool little detail there. Oh yeah, and you can't forget about Grundy, but he's kind of there in the background, so my theory still kind of works, because he's kind of in all of the painting, so let's just go with it. Continuing on with the villain setup for next season, we also have Cindy going through some of the Wizard's old stuff where she ends up finding the Black Diamond, aka the Heart of Darkness, which contains a super crazy cosmic godlike being from the comics who Cindy also name drops called Eclipso. So I have absolutely no clue what her plan is for Eclipso, but maybe it is in some part of her plan to create her own Injustice Society, as I've said in the past, potentially made up of the children of the current and past members. Anyway, another crazy, shocking, and exciting teaser for Season 2, and I just cannot wait to see how this all carries on. But we're not quite done yet. We skip to 6 weeks later and it's Christmas, and everyone is just having a jolly old time in the Whitmore-Dugan house. This is also where we get the other very heartwarming and touching scene between Courtney and Pat, where Courtney actually ends up giving Pat that Christmas gift that she was waiting to give to her father, her real father. So this was super nice to see Courtney give Pat this gift that was so simple yet so meaningful, a world's greatest dad mug for Courtney's real father, Pat Dugan. This show just wants me to cry, doesn't it? But after the gift exchange and the big old family JSA holiday picture, we get one of the most beautiful and perfect endings to a season that I have ever seen. There's no dialogue or anything, it's just Courtney in her suit flying over Blue Valley on her staff while the town is covered in snow with some pretty great music in the background. Then she ends up going on top of a water tower where she is met by Pat in the fully fixed up stripe armor, where they just sit there for a bit and take everything in before flying off to close out the season, as well as give a very nice dedication slide to Jeff John's sister, who the character of Courtney Whitmore is based off of. So just a really nice way to end off such an amazing first season. But wait, there's a little bit more. Transition over to California, where we have someone come up to the manager's door of Pat's old building, and when the guy at the door asks who is looking for Pat, the camera pans around to reveal Sylvester Pemberton, aka Starman. And there we have it. That was our big post-credits teaser for the end of this season, and I don't really want to say too much on this, as I'm sure the video has gone on long enough at this point, but this was the big final shocker moment of the episode, and I definitely was not expecting this. I thought that maybe a member of the JSA could still be alive, but definitely not Starman. A very cool teaser to end off on though, and as this was 6 weeks after Cindy did find Eclipso, you have to wonder if this really is Sylvester, or if it is Eclipso working his cosmic abilities or something. I guess we will just have to wait and see. But all in all, I've sang the praises of this show ever since the beginning, and everything still holds true 13 episodes later. Stargirl Season 1 was just about as close to perfect as you can ask for with a superhero show, and the finale surely did not disappoint. Every single character had their moment to shine. I loved the entire cast. Huge shout out to the crew and Jeff Johns for making something truly amazing. The episode had so many great looking shots, the CG was on point, fight scenes were amazing, character moments were great, it was intense and fun, and we got so much set up for what we can expect in Season 2. So I am super excited for whenever Season 2 hits our screens, and just cannot wait to see more from this cast and crew, and I'm really hyped for whatever Stargirl stories come next. So with that said, I want to know what you guys think about all of this down there in the comments below. What did you think of Stargirl Season 1 as a whole? What did you think of the finale, and what are you most looking forward to in Season 2? I want to know your thoughts on all of this down in the comments below. But until next time, guys, it's been Tazz, and I'll see you guys in the next video.